101.7 The Choice and Higher Density Influences. Hello and welcome to the Cosmic Experience of One. This is an awareness expanding course that should be absorbed in order. Like a university course, this course's information builds upon itself, so you would be doing yourself a disservice if you took it in out of order. If you do not watch it in order, you might not comprehend the material, or worse, you will think you fully understood it and walk away with a skewed interpretation. Do yourself a favor and first view 101.1, 101.2, 101.3, and 101.4, which are all in one video that starts with an introduction to this course. Then continue on viewing the subjects in order. The introduction to this course needs to be taken in first in order to know the nature of this awareness expanding course. Think of this course as a book where you will not understand it fully if you do not read the chapters in order, chapter 1 being the introduction that is imperative to take in first. So please click on the link in the description section under this video to view the first video. We will speak about the choice in third density and summarize the roles of each density in the physical outer planes with an emphasis on how higher density beings influence and affect third density beings, since this course is meant for the expansion of awareness for human beings, who are third density beings. The first and second density experiences lay the groundwork, the foundation for the self-aware third density being, so that they can make the choice of polarity, service to others, positive polarity, or service to self, negative polarity. The duration of time taken to make the choice is up to the third density being. After the choice has been made, the third density being graduates to fourth density, positive or negative, and continues polarizing on their chosen path up to the middle sixth sub-density, where the dualistic experience of the two polarities ends and only the positive polarity path remains. From there, only a path of unity exists and is pursued, where beings continue to polarize toward the positive through the rest of sixth density, then seventh density, and then merge back with source. For perspective, we reiterate, the duration of second density is billions of years. It was approximately 4.5 billion years on Earth. The duration of fourth density is approximately 30 million years. The duration of third density on Earth is approximately 75,510 years. The duration of third density on any planet is by far the shortest of any density for two reasons. 1. It is a period for a being to make a choice of what they want to experience on their journey back to source. It is akin to spending only 4 years in your university to choose the career you will possibly do for the rest of your life. Once you have chosen your career and graduate university, there is no reason to stay in university. Instead of a multitude of career choices one can choose in university, there are only two choices in the third density for the journey back to source, the positive or negative path. 2. Third density is the most intense and challenging of any density, where extreme highs and lows are experienced, much like on your roller coaster rides. A being is not given more than they can handle for any experience. This applies to a duration of time for a single incarnation, and it also applies to the duration of time in an entire density. A third density being set on advancing toward the negatively polarizing service to self path is one that does things solely for their own sake. They live the truly selfish existence. When they do appear to be helping other beings, It is only because it serves / benefits themselves in some way. This is a challenging role to play because it goes against the biased nature of Source, which is love in unity. These beings do practice love, they are not loveless, but they mostly or only practice love by loving themselves. They concentrate on what satisfies and aids themselves in the experience and care not about what satisfies or aids others, as they see themselves as separate and not part of a whole. They believe, consciously or unconsciously, that this method of separation is the most efficient way to progress for the individual. They practice the art of separation and teach the method to others, directly or indirectly. They only work with others on the same negatively advancing team because it benefits their desire for power and control, as power in numbers increases the probability of control over the majority. Unlike the positive path, the negative path throws other members under the bus, as the human saying goes, if it serves or protects the individual. There is no honest loyalty on the negative path. A third density being set on advancing toward the positively polarizing service to others path is interested in assisting others and themselves. When they help themselves, it is not to the detriment of others. They end up assisting many more beings than themselves because they are only one and there are many others. Or you could say there are many other selves and yourself is only one self, because in reality all are one being. All are of the self which is Source. Therefore, assisting others is to assist yourself. A self who is advancing toward the service to others path learns something and wants other selves to benefit as they have, so they teach as many others as they can. Some human beings are confused and think a being advancing toward service to others only helps out others and does not help themselves. This is a falsity. One cannot assist others until they have first helped themselves. One cannot teach another to build a house unless they first learn how to build a house themselves. A being advancing toward the service to others path believes this method of unity to be the most efficient way to progress, both individually and as a whole. They realize that helping others in their community makes a more harmonious community that is more enjoyable to live in, and since they are living in the community, it benefits themselves as well. They practice the art of unity and teach the method to others, directly or indirectly. These are the two examples of beings mostly toward either side of polarity, positive or negative. They may be close to finalizing their choice to graduate to fourth density positive or negative. Before one comes close to making the choice, their shade is closer to gray or neutral. Since no beings are perfect in any density, especially in third density, all beings are different shades of gray. No being is purely white or black in regards to their polarity. The goal of third density is to make the choice, which is to move one shade as far away from neutral gray and as close to a lighter or darker shade as possible. All beings are a shade of gray. The question is, what is your shade? Because the veil of forgetfulness is used for the third density experience, a being wakes up in third density and does not remember who they are, their past incarnations, nor that they are a part of Source. They awake like an infant and are thrown into self-awareness where an infinite array of experiences and choices are available. These experiences range from intense joy and bliss to intense pain and sorrow. The range of emotions and feelings felt in third density is by far the widest of any density. This can make third density both a complete delight and complete suffering. The experience of third density is in the mind of the one who experiences it, as many different beings can experience the same thing but have a wide range of different thoughts and emotional reactions about it. Instead of a few moments to decide what path to take along a hiking trail, the third density choice takes longer because it is a choice the being typically does not even know they need to make, since the veil obscures their past, and in doing so, obscures their future. This is as it is intended. A being is thrown into countless experiences, and the results of the cause and effect of these experiences offers the being a direction in their life, how they want to live their incarnation. How one decides to live the collection of their third density incarnations is the choice, the countless choices made during incarnations that eventually makes the choice of which polarity path is chosen. This choice can be made in a few incarnations or numerous incarnations. It depends on each being. As seen by Source, the highest viewpoint possible, there is no incorrect choice, as both paths, positive and negative, serve Source. Both paths were created to provide roles that need to be played in order to have the intended experiences along the journey. Thus, it would be a falsity to say that one path is wrong, at least from a very high viewpoint. From a lower viewpoint in third density, there is typically a clear opinion that one path is wrong and the other is right. This is the prime paradox of the cosmos that is resolved in the early to middle sixth subdensities when negative polarity ends and only positive polarity remains. Remember the video game comparison we presented in Subject 101.3? The best games need heroes as well as villains to offer challenges, lessons, and growth. We cannot have the experience or theatrical play without a few characters choosing to play the villainous roles. From the game creator's viewpoint, Source and the Logi, there is no such thing as wrong and right in the game. There is only what makes the experience comprehensive and worth having. And so what may be considered wrong and right to those playing the game was purposefully designed by the intelligent and creative mind of Source and the Logi. A game creator and an unbiased player both recognize that a game would be boring if the quote-unquote good or quote-unquote bad side always won. So anything is possible in the third density experience. Somewhere between the early to the middle sixth subdensities, the dualism of polarity ends. The dualistic part of the experience ceases for all the players, sparks of Source. All the roles gave the players and the audience the experience they intended and are relinquished like an actor giving up a character's role when the theatrical play or movie ends. The curtain comes down on the play's ending, and all the actors congratulate each other on how well they played their roles. This happens somewhere in the early to middle sixth subdensities for each group or wave of beings. Then the curtain rises and the audience claps and shows their appreciation. There is always a happy ending for all, no matter what transpired during and at the end of the theatrical play. All sparks of Source are satisfied from their higher density viewpoints and continue their experience in love and unity without paradoxes or any aspect of dualism, and continue journeying toward merging with Source. We have clarified that there is no wrong and right within the game from a very high viewpoint of 6 density and higher, that both protagonists and antagonists are needed for the cosmic experience. But from within the experience or game, there is a wrong and right stance perceived by the players, especially in third density. The wise hero does not put their sword down and let the villain kill them because they know they are both part of oneness, parts of source. The game is to be played and cannot be avoided, as the only way out of the experience or game is to finish it. The hero chose their role and should play it as well as an actor tries to play their role. Their civilization or planet would fall under control and suffering if the hero put their sword down and did not play their role well. It will take more than the heroes to do the job, as strength is in numbers. Unity, loving kindness, and defense, which in certain circumstances may appear as an attack, are the best tactics for beings moving in the positive polarity direction. Contrariwise, the villain chose their role and should play it as well as possible. It is a hard role because the audience may dislike them, but someone has to play the part. As villains get better at their role of using deception, they can manipulate the roles of governmental and organizational structures more to their advantage. Clever villains use deception so effectively that they can make themselves appear as the heroes and the philanthropists in their civilization or planet. They can continue to put the majority of humanity under their control while being praised at the same time. The craftiest villains learn the ways of fourth density beings and remove themselves from being known in the public and rule and control from behind closed doors, ordering their underlings to instruct their minions to do their bidding. The more layers the villain places between the public's eye and themselves, the safer they are from being discovered and dethroned. There are such villains / clever negatively oriented human beings on planet Earth. Selfishness, deception, separation, and attack are the best tactics for beings moving in the negative polarity direction. When we say separation, we mean to divide the majority in as many ways as possible so they do not act in unity and fight each other instead of the few negatively oriented human beings who desire to take control or further their control over the majority. We feel at this time we should restate that every game has rules to make it fair and enjoyable for all players. The most important rule in the cosmos is the universal law of balancing, which human beings have called karma. Since every being is part of the same whole, when one being does something negative to another, it is the same thing as doing the negative thing to oneself. One has to make up with themselves eventually by balancing karma. In order for those two parts of source to fit back into the big jigsaw puzzle picture, the unique parts that connect the two beings' pieces need to be balanced, which means return to their original state to fit back together. Only when all the jigsaw puzzle pieces are put back together is the experience completed. This is why choosing the villainous role, which some have to play in order for all to have an experience, is a hard role to play. Part of their role is balancing the negativity they created while playing their part. Even though there is no wrong and right from the highest perspective and the experience is similar to a game, there are set rules and consequences or duties for a being's actions. One cannot perform many negative actions within the game and walk away without karmic balances being made at some point for their actions. It does not matter in what incarnation or incarnations one's karma is balanced. but it must be balanced before graduating to 7th density. Positive polarity tends to balance their karma as they ascend the densities. Negative polarity beings tend to balance their bulk of karma after switching polarities to the positive side, which must be done at the latest in the middle 6th subdensity. Some human beings are perplexed at how a negatively oriented human being can keep performing negative deeds and seemingly avoid karma. Karma does not operate how they perceive it does. Besides karma, a being who entertains and practices negative states of being is in disharmony and mental pain as long as they decide to create a negative state of being for themselves. Karma does not need to be balanced within the same incarnation it was created, but there is always the potential for it to be balanced out in any of a being's incarnations in the 3rd density experience. For negative beings, it can be partially put off for densities. When they switch polarities, they have heaps of karma to balance out. All must be balanced at some point. Another misunderstanding of karma is that those taking orders under a command structure, such as in the military, black operations, a job of any sort, or any other position where orders are given by a higher ranking position or boss, the beings following orders think they are exempt from karma. This is not the case, as it is the responsibility for the 3rd density being, no matter what position or situation they are in, to use their discernment and free will to make their own choice. If their choice is to ignore using discernment and their free will, they still accrue karma for all the acts they perform. All are responsible for their choices. Every single thought, action, and all details to the smallest degree are recorded in the subconscious mind and is connected with Source. There are no free passes when pertaining to karma, no exceptions. Every being must balance out all their karma before merging back with Source. In order for a being to finalize their choice in 3rd density and graduate to 4th density, a being has to work on particular chakras. To graduate on the positive path, a being has to work on and adequately balance out their red ray, orange ray, yellow ray, and partially the green ray energy center. Red ray being the foundation, orange ray dealing with personal and one-on-one interactions, yellow ray dealing with group associations, and green ray dealing with universal love. The green ray chakra only needs to be partially balanced out to graduate to 4th density positive. We will expand upon chakras in 103 subjects that pertain to self-growth. They build on 101 and 102 material and further assist Earthlings in quickening their graduation. Working on these particular chakras, red ray through green ray, adequately to graduate to 4th density positive equates to being at least 51% service to others at the end of a major cycle, which is every approximately 25,170 years for Earth. To graduate on the negative path, a being has to work on their red ray, orange ray, and yellow ray chakras. Red ray being the foundation is worked on and balanced the same way as for the positive path, but the orange ray and yellow ray chakras are worked on in the opposite manner of that of the positively oriented being. Working on these particular chakras adequately in a self-serving way to graduate to 4th density negative equates to being at least 95% service to self at the end of a major cycle. the negative path requires much dedication. If a third density being, either moving toward positive or negative, manages to utilize their indigo ray chakra and goes through their violet ray chakra to open up a greater connection with source energy and mind, they can graduate at any time and do not need to wait till the end of a major cycle. This action is the way of the adept and clearly conveys the being is more than advanced enough to move on to the next density, so there is no reason for them to wait till the end of a major cycle. If it is a positive being, they may decide to stay in third density for the remaining major cycle or the whole grand cycle to aid and teach other beings, which may increase the positive harvest. If it is a negative being, they choose to graduate to fourth density negative after their current incarnation ends. Since they focus on being selfish, moving forward as soon as possible to increase their polarization and power suits the disposition of their role. In order for a positive being to utilize their indigo ray chakra and go through their violet ray chakra to open up a greater connection with source energy and mind, all their chakras need to be adequately balanced. For a negative being, they need to adequately balance their red ray chakra and intensely work on their orange ray and yellow ray chakras to bypass the green ray and blue ray chakras and utilize their indigo ray chakra. This requires great dedication and focus because it is very difficult to activate and utilize the indigo ray chakra from the yellow ray chakra. Most beings choose the positive path due to an inherent bias of being part of Source, which is unity and all-loving. It should be noted that a being cannot fake service to others. If their true intentions of assisting others is to simply look good in others' eyes or to simply graduate themselves, the latter being mentioned due to this educational course making the choice known, it does not count toward the 51% of being service to others. Even if they do the planet a great service, their true intentions are still self-serving. Such actions are not adequate for one to graduate to fourth density negative, but they certainly hinder one from graduating to fourth density positive. The weight of importance lies in one's intentions. Actions can be beneficial, but they are empty without the state of being to inspirit and empower those actions. First work on the state of being, and then one may do the actions honestly and more effectively. The intention in serving others is what matters, not how effective it is, because one can change and direct themselves, but they have no control over what others do, nor should they, as being forceful and controlling is a self-serving action, even if it is seen to be acting for the benefit of the being. All must make their own choices for their free will to be honored. A being with positive intentions in serving others could perform positive actions but create no noticeable change in their civilization and still graduate to fourth density positive, as the change in others is out of their hands. Those advancing toward the positive path naturally want to aid and assist others, typically after they have aided themselves appropriately, but the lack of positive changes in others due to their efforts does not hinder their graduation to fourth density positive. A third density being moves towards a chosen path of positive or negative polarity throughout their third density incarnations. At no time is a third density being fully positive or negative. They are always positively oriented, negatively oriented, or neutrally oriented because they have not made the choice and graduated to fourth density yet. For some, it may seem clear what path a particular human being is headed toward, but they could change polarity at any time. As a being gains more polarity in either direction, it is easier for them to switch polarities in the middle to later subdensities when their polarity has a greater charge. Only when beings make the third density choice and graduate to fourth density positive or negative do they finalize the choice and become fully service to others, positive, or service to self negative beings. Of all the third density planets in the cosmos, the approximate graduation of planets to the fourth density positive and negative paths are as such. 62% of all planets have only beings who graduate toward the positive path. 10% of all planets have only beings who graduate toward the negative path. 28% of all planets have beings who graduate with a mixed amount toward positive and negative. In a mixed graduation, the majority typically chooses the positive path. In all three of these cases, it does not mean that all beings graduated. In all three examples given, there are a percentage of beings on planets that do not graduate to either the negative or the positive because they did not polarize enough in either direction to make the choice, and so repeat at least another major cycle in third density on a different planet. Approximate percentages of all third density beings in the cosmos. 86% of all third density beings choose the positive path, and 14% choose the negative path. However, it is not mathematically accurate to assume that planet Earth or any singular planet has an average of 14% of beings who graduate to the fourth density negative. Most of the 14% who choose the negative path come from the approximately 10% of planets where only beings graduate to fourth density negative. These planets have a heavy hand in raising the overall negative percentage. Typically mixed graduation planets, such as Earth, have far more positive than negative graduates, where the negative graduates are far below the cosmos's overall 14% negative graduate figure. We will now speak of the influences higher density beings have upon third density beings, such as human beings. Fourth density focuses on love, universal love, or solely love of self, and understanding. Some of the fourth density positive experience will be restated here. Fourth density is no longer subjected to the way of confusion, since the veil of forgetfulness only applies to third density. Those who choose to polarize positively and be a service to others being spend about their first half fourth density forming a tightly knitted group experience, a united group where beings use their individual minds but also have access to a shared mind that is created due to a shared focus and intention. In fourth density, united groups are constructed for the first time, both for the positive and negative paths. Since all are service to others beings in fourth density positive, opposition that was had in third density is no longer a detractor in forming this group unity. All ideas and concerns are heard and harmonized through the group. Since everything is transparent in fourth density from being to being, thoughts, feelings, emotions, aura, and vibration, this allows the group to harmonize more efficiently. Words in different languages are no longer a hindrance because telepathy is used. From a third density being's perspective, this type of openness or transparency may sound scary and invasive, but since all in fourth density positive made the choice to be service to others and show loving kindness and compassion, Acts such as judgment, shame, alienation, or any other form of separation and negativity that a being experienced in third density is removed on the fourth density positive path. Because of this, such transparency only assists harmonization and is seen as beneficial. While the group is harmonizing, they are learning the lessons of universal love and understanding at the same time. Forming a united group does not mean all beings become the same. It is quite the opposite, as all beings use their unique skills and abilities for the benefit of the united group. This collection of uniqueness with a shared intention affords great power and effectiveness that far surpasses that of a collection of beings who are all the same and have the same skills and abilities. Once a unity of mind is established for the united group, the role of a fourth density influencer begins, assisting third density beings who show positive intentions of seeking or striving, either mentally or vocally. Positive beings respect free will, and so do not give aid that has not been asked for in some way, either mentally or vocally. The more a third density being strives for and focuses on something that has the potential of being positive for themselves and others, the more invisible assistance they are given by fourth density positive beings. Third density beings' positive intentions in their seeking and striving are what warrants the invisible fourth density assistance, and the mental asking for assistance is what initiates the aid. More assistance is able to be provided to those who seek or focus on something with dedication. The saying, "God helps those who helps themselves," is most accurate. In this case, the part of God / source helping is fourth density beings or your spirit guides. The more a being seeks and strives, both in states of being and through states of action, the more opportunity for aid arises. When aid is provided, a thought or an idea may seemingly pop into a third density being's mind, a simple decision to do or say something, an answer to a question they have been pondering over, or an illuminated light bulb moment. The being typically thinks they came up with the idea, that the thought or idea originated from themselves, but it was actually gifted to them telepathically by fourth density beings or from their spirit guides. The fourth density positive being has already worked past the ego and does not need recognition, so it does not bother them that the third density being thinks it was their own idea. Instead, it delights them that they got through and were able to aid. Their service is their aim and recognition is not needed. However, one could say the positive polarity garnered by the positive being for such an action is a form of passive recognition. Being of service itself is their reward, and their actions assist their united group in polarizing more toward the positive, moving toward graduating to fifth density. When one serves and helps others, they are serving and helping themselves at the same time. All are one. The best way for a third density being to receive aid is to have daily periods of downtime. Daily meditation where the clearing of mind and the relaxing of the body allows not only healing and inner work to take place, but makes one open to the influence of their spirit guides and fourth density beings, ideas, solutions, and guidance to come through while the mind is not active and blocking such channels of communication. Quiet times of contemplation and reflection can also open up avenues for assistance. Typically, the guidance is gifted to the third density being during meditation and sprouts or becomes known sometime after the meditation. Possibly within the same day as the meditation, or possibly days, weeks, or even months later when synchronicities in life align, or when the being triggers the coming forward of the information through states of being or reaching a certain level in one's spiritual progression. It all depends on the particular type of guidance or download gifted and the path of the being who received it. Third density beings can channel fourth density beings in the traditional sense of the word channel, to be in a relaxed meditative state and give consent to the fourth density being to talk through oneself as the receiver and be asked questions by at least one other present third density being. The messages received are mainly focused on love, unity, and expressing how meditation is important. Typically, the third density being keeps asking questions instead of following through with the advice, and so they end up receiving a repeated message in different words over and over again. If the third density being wants new information, they need to put the advice into action and show dedication. The fourth density being does not do the work for them, as that would be infringing upon one's free will. Only you can do the inner work for yourself to spiritually grow. Once the third density being practices the advice and performs loving kindness and daily meditation, even if for short periods of time, they will be able to grow, expand, and understand why both acts are very beneficial. Doing the inner work and practicing meditation also opens up doors for more assistance in everyday life without the need for traditional channeling, because one is open for telepathic pathways where one's spirit guides and fourth density beings can be more of assistance by offering aid in the moments of everyday life as they arise. One's preceding lessons learned and practiced in the classroom setting grants access to the next sub-density grade level's information. The more aid a fourth density being gives, the more love and compassion they attain, and the more they polarize to the positive. The more experience obtained in service through trial and error garners more understanding of the minds and ways of a particular societal disposition, their dance, so to speak, which makes the fourth density being more efficient at aiding. This growth of understanding not only strengthens love and compassion, but allows more positive polarization to occur for both the fourth density being doing the service and possibly for the receiving third density being if they follow through and do the work themselves. Serving others increases understanding, universal love, compassion, and unity, all of which moves a fourth density united group towards graduation. A rotating position of a very few fourth density beings take on the role of attacking or defending their united group from the opposite polarity in their density. Fourth density negatives do the attacking, and fourth density positives do the defending. Fourth density battles typically end up being a stalemate as both sides are well skilled and equipped in their ways. The fourth density negative experience starts out with intense fighting between the beings in this group in order to establish the hierarchy of power and authority. Beings use tactics that utilize the transparency of fourth density against each other in a mental battle of willpower, opposite of how the positives use transparency to harmonize. Once the pecking order is established, it resembles something like a military ranking order. This military unit is the united group for those on the negative path. They are not harmonized united group, but they are a united group in that they have a shared intention to teach and spread their doctrine of the service to self path. They can mobilize like a military unit and set out to influence third density beings just like the positives do, but the negatives use temptation, manipulation, and deception rather than honesty in their telepathic acts to assist third density beings in polarizing toward the negative. Third density beings or groups who lust for power and control beam out such intentions, even if only done mentally. Fourth density beings who can read thoughts, feelings, and emotions are drawn to such third density beings like a magnet. This magnetic pull is the same for positive and negative beings. It is the mental intentions and the asking for assistance by third density beings that initiates the process. Most third density beings are not aware that their thoughts are real things and can affect the physical outer planes. Mind over matter is knowledge that few third density beings consciously practice, but it is learned and practiced by every fourth density being, and in fifth density beings become adept at it, and it is close to perfected in sixth density. A tried and true method used by fourth density negative united groups is to sniff out some type of group, nation, race, organization, secret society that is already powerful or has the ability to rise to power and influence them into thinking or strengthening the idea that they are elite and superior to others. If the fourth density negatives are successful, the influenced third density group uses their power to establish themselves as the few so-called elite and work toward controlling and enslaving the majority, which they perceive themselves to be superior to and therefore feel justified in controlling and ruling over them. This is typically done through war. A nation or race expands as much as possible through military might, thinking their cause is justified because they believe they are the superior, more civilized, more intelligent, and/or more spiritual third density beings. Examples are not needed, as Earth's history is littered with such examples, even up to the present. When a certain level of technological advancement and/or cleverness is reached for the civilization or planet, wars can be waged clandestinely instead of through public conflict. This is the case with Earth, where clandestine acts happen on a daily basis without the general population being aware of what is transpiring and what is shaping their society. Shaping a third density civilization, or entire planet if possible, into such a hierarchy of power and control is mirroring the structure of the fourth density negatives united group. It is an effective method that has proven itself to work, so the negatives continue to use it. Fourth density negative beings are not only drawn to beings who produce negative mental intentions, they are also drawn to individuals and groups who are or who potentially will create much positive polarity by aiding a large amount of beings. The negatives attempt to stop the aid from coming to fruition, and the more negative inroads the positively oriented being or group they are targeting produces, the more the negatives have to work with. Due to the illusion of time, fourth density negative beings can see third density possibilities / probabilities in timelines approximately up to 3 months before they transpire in third density. And fifth density negative beings can see up to 5 months in advance. It is the same for fourth and fifth density positive beings, with sixth density positive beings being able to do this with the same accuracy up to 10 months in advance. Higher density beings, positive and negative, can see further than the specific periods, but only perceived possibilities where the probabilities become less clear the further out into the time in space continuum. When fourth density negatives are attempting to separate and disassemble a positively oriented third density group who is endeavoring to majorly aid their civilization or planet, the negatives use their telepathic tactics of temptation, manipulation, and deception on the weakest link or links in the group, making them think they are not getting enough recognition, enough money, become jealous of other members, or any of the myriad of other ways. There are countless temptations and deceptions for any given case and any given being. Fourth density negatives can take down even some of the most stable of organizations, movements, or causes. They do so by implementing a two-way attack, tempting the weakest link or links in the positively oriented group, while at the same time influencing other third density individuals or groups who are already in or could be in some way in opposition to the positively oriented group. These human tools could be power hungry and or money hungry and see their power and or wealth being threatened by the positively oriented group's advances, or they could be a religious or scientific group firmly set in their dogma or ways of thinking. If a monetary system has been established in a civilization or the entire planet, fourth density beings lick their lips with glee, as such a tool is the most powerful weapon for causing separation and forming a minority of so-called elites who wield control over a majority that find themselves moving further and further into enslavement as time progresses. If these control-hungry, negatively oriented human beings are good enough pupils to their fourth density chosen masters, they are successful at shaping a heavily controlled nation or entire planet where the majority do not even think they are enslaved. This can be accomplished with fourth density telepathic assistance and temptation alone, but if the third density so-called elites have established a direct line of communication via so-called magical rituals with their fourth density negative chosen masters, it is much easier to shape the planet in their controlling image. If this shaping is done gradually enough over time, or even quickly if the programming and social conditioning tactics are fully utilized, generations are born into a type of slavery they do not question or even realize, and think it is just how the world is, and there is nothing to be done about it but get ahead by doing what you are told to do by the authority structure. If the civilization or planet has been captured by a monetary system, this tool is used by negatively oriented third density beings as a dangerous weapon against the majority. It is fully utilized for temptation, compliance, submission, and control. Fourth density negatives work on their tactics by increasing their understanding of the particular dance of a societal disposition and advance towards graduation by polarizing more to the negative through their influential deeds. Their service of offering third density beings temptation, manipulation, and deception that leads toward the negative path is how they increase their negative polarity and power. There is always a possibility for a technologically advanced, negatively oriented later third subdensity society to be used by their fourth density negative chosen masters to collude with a negatively oriented third density group that invites them to openly attempt to take over their civilization or planet. but typically the former group works with the latter group behind closed doors. A specific advanced later third subdensity society is typically selected for this role because they are deemed physically pleasing to the particular civilization or planet they are attempting to bring under the negative's rule. They then use manipulation and deceptively come across as higher density positive beings interested in aiding the civilization or planet, tempting them into agreeing to something that would unknowingly enslave them, either outright or through time. Technology augmentation is one of their typical tactics because through this method, a type of possession or mind control is possible. If the deceptive method is rejected by the civilization, they leave and continue to work behind the scenes with the negatively oriented third density group that invited them, assisting the third density group at taking control of the planet for them. If even a minority of the third density civilization or planet accepts the method of deceitful aid, it offers inroads that alter the planet's possibility /timeline and may be majorly detrimental. Unlike 4th to 6th density positive beings, 4th and 5th density negative beings do not need a calling or approval from a council and set out to conquer on their own accord. But the polarity rules set up by the logi keep them in check, so they do not spoil the gameplay or cosmic experience. A negative being does not gain negative polarity by simply doing negative and controlling actions. If they break cosmic rules while performing certain negative deeds, they lose negative polarity. Since gaining polarity in one's chosen direction is advancement, rules are followed by the negatives and positives. If positively oriented third density beings, a civilization, group, or individual, are contacted in any manner by higher density beings offering assistance, the third density being or beings have to use their discernment to assess if the contact is genuinely positive or not. Negative 4th and especially 5th density beings are skilled at deception and temptation and attempt to trick positively and neutrally oriented third density beings into thinking they contacted and made deals with positive higher density beings. Positive higher density beings do not make deals. They offer their services freely and do not ask for anything in return. This negative deception has happened many times on Earth and is recorded in Earth's so-called holy religious documents and books. Commonplace positive material is given in order to deceive the third density being into thinking they are in contact with a positive higher density being or quote-unquote God. Negative material is slipped in with mediocre positive material, and the negatives gain inroads to the individual conversing with them and with the group the individual represents, and potentially even an entire civilization if the third density group takes control of it with the aid of the negatives they think are the positives. If third density beings use their discernment and recognize what is not positive instead of mindlessly obeying what they are told, such deception may be recognized and avoided. This will be expanded upon in the subject about religions and their origins. There is always a decline of negative beings with each graduated density because some switch polarity to the positive. Approximate percentages of beings graduating from 4th to 5th density are 92% graduate to the positive path, and 8% graduate to the negative path. The negative decline can be seen when comparing the negative graduation approximate percentages from 3rd to 4th density, 14%, to 4th to 5th density graduation, 8%. In at least the middle subdensities of any density, a being can choose to switch polarities, so a being is not stuck in the negatively or positively polarized path after they have made the choice in graduating 3rd density. A positive being does not feel the need to switch polarity. A negative being can choose to work at switching polarities and join the positive path in the middle to later subdensities of 4th or 5th density. We have already covered 6th density for this, but will expand upon it during the 6th density section. Some 3rd density beings who end up graduating to 4th density negative did not know what they were signing up for, but they cannot simply switch polarities to positive at the beginning of 4th density. They have to see their choice through to at least the middle subdensities of their current density before they are able to switch polarities, which is approximately 15 million years for 4th density and 27 million years for 5th density. Other 4th density negative beings, having experienced the adversity and spiritual entropy on the negative path, decide to switch polarities instead of continuing on the negative path to graduate to 5th density negative. These are the reasons why approximately 14% graduate to 4th density negative, but only 8% graduate to 5th density negative. 5th density is where beings learn wisdom and the ways of light energy. This is a density where beings become masters of the art of thought creation, shaping and utilizing light so as to materialize in physical matter whatever they require. As with all higher densities, they focus on progression and influencing the density directly below them, the 4th density in this case. Sometimes 5th density beings directly influence the 3rd density instead of relying on the 4th density to do so, but this is rare. 5th density positive beings either choose to learn, work, and graduate in group unity or individually. They learn how to work with light and be empowered by universal love and light energy, and then beam love and light energy to where it is needed in the 3rd and 4th densities. As with all higher densities, positive and negative beings in the early to middle subdensities teach the later subdensities of the density below them a partial amount of the ways of their density. In this case, a partial amount of the ways of wisdom and light are taught to later 4th subdensity beings. 5th density negative beings learn wisdom that can be used for themselves in clever ways and how to work with light energy and use it for themselves and their self-serving interests. They only work individually within their density, the art of focused thought granting all their needs. Some early to middle 5th subdensity negatives choose to teach and give commands to 4th density negatives because it benefits them in increasing their negative polarity. Very few 5th density negatives past the middle subdensities see the value in working with 4th density negatives because it no longer benefits them in their polarity advancement. Most of them continue their negative path on their own in seclusion. Positive and negative 5th density beings do not battle each other, as the wisdom they have learned in their density has shown the futility of warring with each other. This same futility of directly battling each other in 4th density exists, but 4th density negative beings are not wise enough to cease the action. Approximate percentages of beings graduating from 5th to 6th density are 93.5% graduate to the positive path, and 6.5% graduate to the negative path. The lighter decline of negative graduates into 6th density as compared to 5th density graduation is because the few remaining service to self beings are the extremely dedicated beings who adhere to their particular path against all odds. 6th density is where beings learn to unite and harmonize universal love learned in the 4th density with the wisdom they learned in the 5th density. Although negative beings learn self-love in the 4th density. Like snowflakes, no two beings' chakras are balanced and interact in the exact same way. Each being is an expression of uniqueness, serving Source in the knowing of itself. A being learning more about themselves is synonymous with Source knowing itself more fully, as the collection of sparks is Source. The all are the one, and the one is the all. Paradoxes of the cosmic illusion end in the 6th density. Early 6th subdensity negatives teach later 5th subdensity negatives because it aids the 6th density negative's polarity. As the early 6th subdensity negative polarize more to the negative and advance toward the middle subdensities, they eventually face an insurmountable wall in their advancement. 6th density is where the dualism of polarities comes to a conclusion as the positive and negative polarities harmonize and only positive polarity remains. Somewhere up to the middle 6th subdensities, the negative 6th density becomes fully aware that it is impossible to advance in polarity and power by continuing their path back to Source on the negative path, because they have to unite and harmonize wisdom with universal love, not just love for themselves, in order to advance any further in the 6th density. These beings experience spiritual entropy from not working in harmony with 6th density positives, as 6th density is no longer separated into positive and negative, and unlike in 5th density, beings must work together in a united group in order to advance past the middle 6th subdensity. These wise 6th density negatives come to fully realize that they have to switch to positive polarity and join the positive united group in order to advance any further. A being can only get so close on the negative polarity path back to Source before the knowing and acceptance sets in that all are truly one. And to deceive and control other beings is to do so to oneself, which is neither a wise nor a loving thing to do. Like a negatively charged electron can never get close to entering the nucleus or center of an atom, where positively charged protons and no polarity charged neutrons reside. At this time, the negative turned positive beings set out to balance their built-up karma that had been put off, as when a being performs enough service to self acts to graduate from 3rd density and starts 4th density on the negative path, the act of balancing their karma is delayed. They had to face their karma for all the incarnations in 3rd density where they did not graduate, but once they graduated to 4th density negative, it is delayed. If you are playing a game, you do not penalize the player that accomplishes their mission, their quote-unquote success. In the 4th and 5th densities, these negative players may continue to play their negative roles, building up karma instead of having to face it. When negative beings switch to the positive path, at the latest in the middle 6th subdensity, they do not see balancing their accrued karma as a hassle or a judgment. Instead, Now on the positive path, they see it as a duty / honor to willingly perform the balancing, as a service to others being does, knowing that all are one, and to hurt another is to hurt oneself. And the balancing of harmful actions is not only helping other selves, but helping oneself, since all are one / source. From a positive being's perspective, those playing the negative roles have to face a type of permanent karma situation that is separate from their delayed karma, because to be in opposition with the true loving and united source within every being is to live without peace. There is no peace when one lives in separation and is at odds with its teammates, which is the same thing as being at odds with oneself, since all are one. To do so is to experience spiritual entropy. Having to constantly take orders and bow down in submission to those above you also takes its toll. Hell is not a place, it is a state of being, and one might say that dwelling on the negative path is to be in a hellish state of being, whereas being on the positive path is to be in a heavenly state of being, experiencing universal love, joy, and peace. These are concepts brought forward by Yahushua / Jesus and other higher density beings that were misunderstood. Later 6 subdensity beings, whom are only positive as all negatives have switched polarities before this point, beam love and light energy out to where it is needed in all the densities below them. A later 6 subdensity united group eventually inhabits a logos / star and adds to the intelligently conscious love and light energy that is constantly being provided by a logos out to all the planets and all the beings on those planets within its orbit. At some point during a later 6 subdensity united group's experience, moving off their 6 density core planet and inhabiting a logos / star is done so that the partial early lessons of the 7th density can be learned and graduation to 7th density made possible for their united group. Our later 6 subdensity united group is currently doing this while inhabiting your sun. A large amount of wanderers on Earth are of our united group. Wanderers will be covered in the next subject. If a 3rd density civilization creates a sufficient mass calling, being seeking and striving through positive mental intentions for assistance, later 6 subdensity united groups can answer this mass calling with benevolent telepathy, where the receiver usually believes it is their own thoughts. This is something spirit guides and 4th density beings do all the time, with 4th density negatives using malevolent telepathy. But later 6 subdensity united groups telepathically aid beings who have the greatest possibility to be effective on their planet. Ideas and solutions given to inventors who are on the cusp of a breakthrough that will advance their civilization, leaders trying to avert war or other major crisis of some sort, leaders working toward a major benefit for the beings they serve, those who give speeches or write material down that can potentially reach many, as we are doing with this awareness expanding material, or any other circumstances where a being has the potential for positive change for many. Another way later 6 subdensity united groups can answer a sufficient mass calling is to present their case or plan to the local council. If their plan involves direct contact and is approved, a selected entity or a few entities from the later 6 subdensity united group appears before a 3rd density civilization and offer them teachings face to face in their own language. Beings from the 4th to 6th density can scan a planet and instantly know the 3rd density language is used, but are typically not effective at using the language due to not having lived among the civilization. Direct contact is only done if the later 6th subdensity united group thinks it would be effective for the particular civilization that the mass call originated from. If the later 6th subdensity united group can effectively aid through more subtle means other than direct contact, it is preferred, as the chances of infringing upon free will and developing karmic ties is greatly reduced without direct contact. Direct face-to-face aid from later 6th subdensity united groups has happened several times within the last 13,000 years of Earth's history due to such a low percentage of graduates from Earth, which prompted aid to be offered. We will cover this in a future subject about Earth's history. 7th density is like the hallway back to source, with the hallway becoming narrower with each subdensity reached. This density approaches timelessness, where the present moment is lived and the self's totality is seen. The illusion of time that resides in the cosmos is almost to an end because merging with Source is approaching. In the narrowing hallway that leads to Source, the illusion of time narrows along with all other aspects of the illusion in the cosmos until the merging back with Source ceases the entire illusion. At this point, the dreamer truly awakens from the dream. 7th density beings do not interact with any density except later 6th subdensity united groups. When 7th density united groups reach the middle subdensity, they become the totality of themselves. At this point, each being reaches a totality of all their selves throughout the possibilities /timelines /universes. This totality of a being contains the infinite possibilities the self experienced in every timeline they resided in. It is the nexus at the end of all infinite roads, the infinite possibilities /timelines throughout all densities leading up to the totality of a being in the middle 7th subdensity. Even at this nexus, one's totality of being does not know what roads its 3rd density self will end up taking in their future due to free will, but it does know the destination that all the possible roads lead to because it is at that nexus /destination. Your 7th density totality of being is your future self that exists right now in the same timeless instance as your focal point of awareness in 3rd density because time is an illusion. This is also why your later 6th subdensity higher self can assist you while you are disincarnate in the inner planes while preparing for your next incarnation, and also assist you while incarnate in 3rd density if you adequately balance your chakras and open pathways to the roots of the tree of mind. After the totality of a being is reached in the middle subdensity, the totality of the united group is reached in the later 7th subdensity. In the middle subdensity, the 7th density united group leaves behind a living memory bank of itself for later 6th subdensity united groups to interact with and learn from as they advance toward their graduation. This is the last action of 7th density united groups before ceasing all interactions with densities below them and setting their entire focus on continuing down the ever-narrowing hallway, increasing spiritual mass and losing physical mass on their way back to merging with Source. This course is presented in video format for free to overcome book shadow banning and make its existence known. Now that you know it exists, It's recommended to proceed how this course is intended to be absorbed by book. The title of the book is The Cosmic Experience of One, an awareness expanding course for human beings. The information in this course is more effective and appropriate to be read in book form, where one can pause and ruminate and meditate on the material as they read. Besides the low audio quality in the videos and the protection from targeted spoken words and censorship, the book is a much better way to understand and learn the material. The book contains two more subjects, 104.2 and 104.3, which is my way of thanking those who show their appreciation to my aiding services by purchasing the book. Since we currently live in a broken monetary system, without your show of monetary appreciation for my services, I can't get by and continue to perform service to others acts by writing more meaningful books. Purchasing the book not only shows your appreciation for my services and allows me to live in this monetary system, but the course's material will be easily accessible for your revisiting. To more fully absorb the material, it's recommended to read the book at least twice. You will understand why on your second reading. You can gain positive polarity by doing your part in sharing this awareness expanding course with others. Raising the collective's vibration is a team effort. We cannot do this alone. Your participation is required. Liking and subscribing are also actions that make this course seen by more human beings. A negatively oriented being learns information and keeps it to themselves so they can selfishly benefit over others. A positively oriented being learns information and wants others to benefit from it as well because they care. And they know that aiding others also aids themselves. This is true in more ways than one. As a being gains positive polarity for aiding others, and they benefit again when another's vibration is raised because it raises the whole collective's vibration, which assists all, including the first being who shared. All are connected, all are one. Comments and questions will be read, but I will not reply with comments, nor like comments, nor heart comments, nor interact in the comments section in any way. If comments or questions are found to warrant a reply, the reply will be made in a possible future video. If an account using the same or similar profile picture, channel name, or my author name interacts in any of the ways listed above or other ways, know that it's not me and is a human tool working for the negatively oriented human beings to capture and twist the information in this course or your perception, or smear the messenger. Likewise, human tools may create fake accounts on this platform or others in the same attempt to capture and twist this course's information. Official sources for me are listed in the description field below. Everything else is fake.